Hey everyone, welcome back to Tactical Magic Podcast. This is Molly Mandelberg, your host, and I have a very inspiring and encouraging guest with me on the line today. So I met Tad, I don't know, at least 4 or 5, maybe 6 years ago. And I have to say, he's one of the best people to teach about marketing. If you consider yourself, heart-centered or earthy or hippie at heart. Tad's business is called Marketing for Hippies, and he has a lot of wisdom to share, decades of experience in the marketing world. So hang tight, we'll be right back. It's not just about mastering technology. It's not just about brand or messaging. It's not just about making more money. It's about showing up in a big way so your people can find you. This is about bringing your most wild and authentic self into the hustle and grind. Welcome to Tactical Magic, a business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. So Tad Hargrave is a hippie who developed a knack for marketing and then learned to be a hippie again. He spent his late teens being schooled in a mixed bag of approaches to sales and marketing, some manipulative and some not. And when that career ended, he spent a decade unlearning and unpacking what he'd been through, how he'd been swept up in it. Why didn't those approaches work as well as advertised? Were there ways of marketing that both worked better and felt better for all involved? And it took him time, but he began to find a better way to market. By 2006, he had become one of the first full-time conscious business marketing coaches for hippies and created a business where he could share the understanding he had come to. Marketing can feel good. You don't have to choose between marketing that works but feels awful or marketing that feels good but gets you no clients. Since 2001, he's been touring his marketing workshops around Canada, the US, Europe, and online, bringing refreshing and unorthodox ideas to conscious entrepreneurs and green businesses that help them grow their organizations and businesses without selling their souls. That's a really key component. Instead of charging outrageous amounts, he started doing most of his events on pay-what-you-can basis. He's author of 16 books and workbooks on marketing. And I will say, oftentimes when I have someone's bio for a podcast, I cut some of it because I want to make it short and concise. And I couldn't cut any of that because that was all really important stuff. So welcome to the show, Tad.
Thank you so much, Molly. It's good to see you again.
You too. Yeah, so I had Tad on the show a couple of years ago. If you've been listening to the podcast from the beginning, you may have heard an episode with him, or you're welcome to scroll back. Maybe we'll link back to that episode. But what's new? What's happening?
Oh, man. Well, business is good. I'm just in the middle of this semester in my membership around this thing called point of view marketing, which I know we're going to be talking about today. So, and over the last few months, I've had these just huge insights around it that I think make it a lot easier to understand and make it more useful for people. So that's been the main thing I've been thinking about and jamming on.
It's awesome. Yes, we are going to talk about that today. And I want to start with one thing that I love that's so different about you. I'm also in the marketing space and I often am working with hippies, but we definitely do business a little bit different. One thing I love about you and one thing that I think makes clients of yours kind of raving fans is how you do payment different, that you let people come and pay what they can for a lot of your services. Can you just talk a little bit about what the transition from that old version, I imagine you were charging more and then came to that realization you wanted to do it a different way. How did that shift happen for you, and how do you see that being working for you?
Well, it luckily, in a way, it happened very early. But my first few workshops, I just was looking at what Jay Abraham charged, and I just thought, well, I'm teaching that kind of stuff, so I should charge huge amounts. And so I, $2,000 for a weekend, but it included a few follow-up sessions, one-on-one, and wrote the big long sales letters and all that. And the workshops I led weren't that good, and but then I had to do a workshop in Fairfield, Iowa, of all places. And nobody had signed up because my computer had crashed and died in a couple months before. Anyway, a bunch of things conspired that when I got there, and I had 2 intro workshops. The first one had 3 people. and nobody still signed up for the weekend. And then I had another one, I think there were 16 people there. And I'd been there the year before. So as I was driving there, I saw somebody I met the year before. I said, I'm doing a workshop now, you should come, just trying to get anybody there. And then I just said, look, nobody signed up for the weekend. How about this? No follow-up. Just pay whatever you want to pay. I'm here in town anyways. And I just thought I would get almost no money. And I got paid pretty well. And that's what, and I'd grown up watching street performers. So it clicked for me. And whenever I do live workshops, this is so much easier. I don't have to do a big pitch. I don't have to do a big song and dance. I can just do the workshop, and then people pay at the end. There's a deposit, which I implemented later because so many people no-showed if I didn't. But then people pay whatever they thought it was worth, which took so much of the pressure off, because I thought, well, if the workshop's shitty that time, they'll just pay less. And that was true. I do workshops and I thought, oh, that one wasn't that great. And I look at my hat at the end of it with the money in. I was like, yep, that hands out. So that's how it started. And then, I wrote a whole ebook about it called Pay What You Can, detailing it. I do it with my workshops, but I know other people, they do it with their one-on-one coaching, and other people do it with their products online. My big advice would be for people, if you're thinking about doing a pay what you can model, it doesn't have to be everything in your business. You can pick one part of your business and have that be the pay what you can. So I do live workshops as that, but other people will do other parts of their business. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I think that's a good distinction, that it doesn't have to be everything you're doing, because that could feel overwhelming if, the things that have been your bread and butter are suddenly changing their entire structure. That could feel scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, give us the overview, point of view marketing. Let's look at this.
Okay. So point of view marketing comes from, now I think you and I both know a fellow, Bill Barron, and he had a metaphor that he used that I still use to this day, which is our ideal clients as service providers are on island A and they want to be on island B. Yeah, island A is they got some symptoms they don't like. Island B, there's some result they're craving. And then our business is like a boat that can take them from one island to the other. And so part of the challenge for entrepreneurs is they say, I can take you to every island. This boat's amazing. You wouldn't believe this boat, how good it is. Whatever island you want to go to, yoga, it's great for everything. This is such a way to kill a business, is try to be everything to everybody. And so there's the niche conversation, but as people begin to settle into some sort of niche, let's just say, okay, I'm going to focus on health, or I'll focus on relationships, or this particular issue. There's still the question of how do you get them from one island to the other? Like, what route do you take? What season do you go? How long do you let the journey go? There's all sorts of questions about how the journey's done that come up. So you might say, well, I'm a nutritionist and I help people, detox. But my God, there's just so many different ways to do that. There's so many different types of diets, different approaches to detoxing. Or even if we're more general, say I'm a nutritionist and I help people get healthy. Well, the vegan, macrobiotic, keto, fruitarian, carnivore, Atkins diet. We could do that for 10 minutes. So there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of approaches. And now the modality of the boat is still nutritionist, but that the point of view around nutrition is different. And so this is one of the things I came to, is that, if you imagine I said, Molly, there's this workshop and you got to go to it. That thing you're struggling with in your life, it's a workshop. It's right about that. And then you go. And if the workshop was terrible, I mean, you hated the content. It made no sense to you. It was either confusing or just appallingly inaccurate. Even if their pitch was really smooth, you wouldn't buy. But if the opposite was true, you might buy. If you went to a workshop and the content was amazing and it blew your mind and it just gave you context for a lot of things you've been struggling with, and then the pitch was terrible, you might still go up to them and say, can I work with you? So we put so much emphasis on the pitch as if that's where it all lives. Oh, I just got to be so smooth with how I we've all seen that at this point, those pitches, here's this price, talk it up, cross it out, here's another number, and then talk that up, then different color marker to cross that out, a different price. and all the psychology that goes into these pitches. I mean, I just watched this video the other day, and I posted it on my Instagram. People can see there's a blonde lady, and the response to it was interesting. So many people thought it was a parody for the first 30 seconds because they couldn't believe it was real. She's talking about creating automatic mindless compliance. So there's all these psychological tactics, laid out in books like Influence the Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini, and they work. I mean, they absolutely work in the short term, but they don't work in the long term, is the problem. They can get you to buy, but they can't get you to be loyal. They can get you to buy, but that will probably turn into buyer's remorse the next day. And so point of view marketing is, instead of making the case for them to buy from us, we're making the case for an approach. Instead of trying to sell the course, we're selling or kind of sharing the concept. And if people resonate with the concept, then the course is sort of a very logical, easy next step. We don't try to sell the product, we sell the point of view. Or that's what we're making the case for. Our colleague Morgana Ray, she had a line where she said, "Don't market yourself, market your message." A similar idea, that if you can make the case for the philosophy, then the pitch is just like the shameless plug is just a very light moment where you basically say, "Look, if you liked what you heard here and you want more, here's where it is." Now, I mean, obviously you can do more, and I probably should lay out the details of the offer a bit more, but fundamentally the weight, the heft is in the education part, not in the "and now buy this" part. And the beautiful thing about the point of view marketing is, when you're making the case, what you're fundamentally saying is like, look, whether or not you buy from me doesn't matter. The important thing is, this is the approach I would take. Whoever you work with, whether or not you work with somebody, let me make the case for the approach. And then, of course, if you want help with that, I do offer that. So that's the nutshell of it.
Yeah. It's sort of backwards from other ways of doing it, which is like, "Hey, I've got this thing. If you want it, come buy it." It's like saying, "Hey, here's a lot of things to know in advance." It's like educating people about the thing you're doing, the thing you're working on, which is really what a lot of our marketing should be, because it's delivering first and then saying, "Let's go
Right.
deeper. Let's take this journey."
Yeah, and it's the opposite also. A lot of what I learned, and it's funny, I don't pay attention to a lot of what's out there, but I keep hearing people saying they're being told, "Yeah, well, the first thing you do is you figure out what Island A is, and then you just stick in the knife and you punch that bruise until they're weeping, and then a little bit of context and educate, but just to tease, and then the hard close, and then getting them to buy." And there was a book called Monopolize Your Marketplace. This guy Rich Harshaw, and he had these 3 roles that marketing needed to play, and this is sort of my rendition of it. But the first thing we need to do is get people's attention, obviously. Second thing we need to do is filter, basically make sure if it's a fit, help them make the decision of if this is a good match or not. And third, that we got to lower the risk of taking the next step. But what I see is that filtering piece is missing in almost all marketing that I see. It's get the attention. There's a little bit of filtering in terms of hitting the pain point, but then it's right to the lower the risk, and here's a free set of Ginsu knives if you sign up. There's that immediate pitch, versus even a slowing it down and saying, wait, don't buy before you understand how I see it. Because do we really want to work with somebody who hates our point? If you're a vegan nutritionist and they come in and they're not open to a vegan diet, this is not a fit, or vice versa. So it protects us too, to do this kind of education, because it gets us clients who are more naturally aligned with our worldview, who are going to be much easier to work with, and that's going to bring out our best work, which also means we're going to get better results with them, which means we're going to get better word of mouth from those people. Versus when people have no niche, well, I just help everybody, which that means they're freestyling most of the time. They're working with people where it's like, let me see what my modality can do for this condition, because I've never thought about it. And that means the results are patchy. And that means the word of mouth is also patchy, which isn't great long term, because then people say, "Hey, what do you hear about Tad?" I don't know. some good stuff, some bad stuff. That's not great. Rather, and there's the opportunity cost, because what if every single person you worked with was a great fit and they were raving about it? Then it's, oh, everyone I talk to, says Molly's amazing. Every single person. Wow. So, of course, it's lofty to aim for that, but to me, that is what to aim for. We figure out who we can best help, and then we make sure we let them know, here's our worldview. Let's just see if this is a fit. And if it's not, just bless and release. Wonderful. And another turn of phrase that can be helpful in this is just, let me share how I see it. And if this isn't a fit, I may know somebody else who can help you, and I'd be happy to refer you out. If we really come from that place, then people can just relax and receive the point of view and say, yeah, it's a fit or it isn't. And if it isn't, we can really connect them with somebody else. I think this person could probably help you better. And then, the goodwill is sustained, and they may refer other people to you down the road. Their friend who is vegan. Oh, hey, there's a nutritionist. They're vegan. They could help you. Because we didn't, still try to get them to be a client and hard close them
when it wasn't a fit. Yeah. I love that. That is just such a different take on why to niche down. It's not to get more sales, or it's not to just clarify your message. It's also because it takes out the freestyling. It's like you get really freaking good at serving that person doing that kind of thing when you're willing to, I don't want to say stay in your lane, but do the thing with the kind of person or the kind of, setup of their life or their whatever they need your help with, that you expertise yourself when you do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's a woman who was on a call with me. She's an herbalist, Chris, and she is focusing on Hashimoto's thyroiditis. That's her thing, an herbalist approach. But you better believe she will know more about that condition than almost anybody within a period of time. She'll be extremely knowledgeable. And if you work with enough of anybody who's got a certain condition, yeah, you just start to learn many more nuances about that condition. And so then you're able to help better, be more on point with your offerings and your protocols, which, ties into this. So the big aha I had a few months ago is this idea of the 3 cases. And when we're sharing our point of view, it's, we're making a case, again, not that they work with us, but for a certain understanding. And there's really 3 cases within that we're making. It's the diagnosis, the prognosis, and the prescription. The big one is the diagnosis. That's the most important. But that's where we say, look, okay, your car's making this funny noise. Here's my take on why it is. You have this symptom in your body, and some doctors are going to tell you it's this, but I think what's actually happening is this instead. So we're giving our sense of what's really going on, what's happening, which is the big question they have. People, when they have certain symptoms, it's the worst part is not the symptom. We've all, you get to a certain age, you have physical symptoms or just, and it's terrifying. You find a lump and it's like, oh my God, is this cancer? And then maybe it just turns out it's lipoma or something, but you can really freak out. And so it's not the symptom, it's the not knowing what it is, not knowing what it's about, and therefore you don't know what to do about it. This is the most maddening thing. Even if they give you a name for it, there's no real sense of what's happening other than you have this condition. And so then you feel so disempowered and lost and angry and all this. So what people are craving, which they almost never get from a doctor. I don't know how it is in the States, but I know in Canada, my God, you go to the doctor and they come, they don't even look at you. They sit down, type in a computer, read your file, little bit of small talk. Here's a drug. There's so little real diagnosis.
Yeah.
There's some, but it's so rapid fire. And we're craving that. We're craving somebody to just say, tell me everything. What's happening? And to be very curious and to it's the old carpenter's rule: measure twice, cut once.
Yeah, I never followed that rule. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's so people are craving a diagnosis that makes sense. Like, I have this symptom. What's going on? And so that's the first case that we have to make. And that really is, I feel like 90% of it. That's most of it. If we can do that well, if you can tell people, here's what's happening with you, and they say, oh my God, right. You've built so much credibility in that. That's most of the credibility building. The chances of them signing up are high. But then ethically, I think it's good to give a prognosis and make the case for that. And that's where we say, look, here's the best case and the worst case scenario. You know, so at the beginning, like for a public workshop, let's say we're talking about Hashimoto's thyroiditis, you have to be a little bit generalized in this, but you'd say, look, the worst this can get is this. And sometimes that can be it kills you, or it's, here's how bad it can get, but here's what's possible also. And the aim, the aim of the diagnosis is to be, we're just trying to be clear, and to be accurate, but the prognosis, we're trying to be realistic with it. So it's no good to say, oh yes, you can totally clear up this condition and no problem. It may be like, look, in my experience, from what I know, the best we can do is this. And that's pretty good. We can reduce the symptoms 60%. That's the best I've seen. That also is very helpful for people to manage expectations, helpful for you so people don't get upset. And then there's the prognosis or the prescription. The prescription is, here's what's needed. So, first the question is what's happening. Then it's like, what's likely? And then what's needed. And if we can't answer those questions, I just say they're coming with those questions, unarticulated, but those three questions are there in their mind. And if you can't answer it, the chance of them then signing up for your offer is low. And the chance of them being a fit, if they do, is also low. But if we can answer those, and it's compelling and it makes sense for them, then I don't recommend having a shitty pitch, but you could, and it's not going to be the deal breaker. So if you can also then talk about your work in a way that just makes sense and is clear, but then the other beautiful thing about point of view marketing is all the enthusiasm belongs in the pitch or in the point of view. That's where you put it. That's where all the energy and nerdy excitement about this stuff belongs. But when it comes to the pitch, to me, it's much more of a flat affect on the face. There can be maybe you're delighted by what you've created, but it's not like, and I'm so excited to share this with you so that you will sign up, because that will land as pressure for people. So it's much more like, I got this thing, I'm pretty stoked about it, here's what it is, there you go. But the most of the energy is in the point of view. If I were to design an intro workshop, it's like first 5% is maybe you tell your story, just introductions. 90% of it is point of view, and the last 5% maybe is the shameless plug, and maybe even smaller. Really, just most of it needs to be sharing the point of view.
Awesome. Yeah. And the business that you have is great proof of that. And I will say we have good overlap, and the clients who come to work with you are raving fans of yours. And that dedication, that consistently wanting to show up and know what you're doing next, that's the kind of relationship we want to have with our clients, that they're not just here for that one workshop. They're here to hang out with you and learn from you until they're at the place they don't need to anymore.
Well, and what you said, it makes me think, when people join my membership, I always ask them, I say, how did you hear about this? And it's always the same story, slightly different forms and time frames, but basically came across your work somehow. Somebody told me, stumbled across it. I binged on your stuff for 3 weeks or 3 years, and then the timing was right, and here I am. But that middle part of they sort of delved into my work, is because it was up there. And if the only thing I had up was pitch after pitch after pitch and commercial after commercial, there's nothing to delve into. But as it is, there's a lot of YouTubes and a lot of articles and a lot of stuff on Instagram. And this makes it safe for people to approach us, which from a business model standpoint is so missing in people's business models. It's an enormous risk. If so often there's a therapist and you want to book a session, but there's no website. They have a profile in Psychology Today with no photo. There's no website, a very small write-up, And I'm going to pay $180 for this just complete shot in the dark. What all of us want is, no, they've got a really robust profile with a clear specialization. And we go to their website and there's videos of them and there's articles I can read. There's good photos of them. There's their bio so I can learn about this, especially when there's high risk. I mean, some stuff it's not as risky, but let's just say you're dealing with something really serious and maybe something that is you wouldn't want the world to know about, and where the consequences of it going wrong are big. People are, I don't want to open this emotional can of worms. My God, I've been pushing it down my whole life. If this goes wrong, it'll make my life much worse. If it's that kind of high risk, then people want to be able to check you out for quite a while. And then there's just timing. It's not always the right moment for people to work with us. So whenever I'm creating content, I'm not creating content thinking this will get me a client today. I'm just thinking I'm creating a back catalog. And one day I'll have a hit single, and then, and every once in a while you put something out and it gets way more response than other stuff and people share it. But that's not what gets people to be the client. That just gets their attention to say, oh, that was interesting. Let me learn more. It's like you hear a song from a band and then you go check out the back catalog. And we've probably also all had times where you hear one song from a band. It's like, oh my God, this is my new favorite band. You listen to the rest of their stuff, like, oh, that was a one-hit wonder. Yeah. I'm not buying that. I'm not going to their concert.
I like it when it's the other way around.
I totally, yeah. Like, oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. We can all think of a band where you heard one song and then you delved in and, oh, I love everything they do.
And now I follow them around the country and the rest is history. Yeah. But yeah, to bring back that boat metaphor, it's like having that, what you call a back catalog, or having that place for people to dig deeper, like for somebody to go and be able to geek out on you and hear your first album or your, latest album and like look at what you have to offer and really see if they vibe with you. That's like sitting on a beach and getting to watch boatfuls of people go across to that island and come back stoked.
Wow.
And getting to like see, how that boat cruises and the kind of party it's throwing along the water as it goes. And then being like, you know what? I'm ready to jump on that boat now, rather than just walking by this empty boat on the beach and somebody saying, hey, come here, I'll help you take you to that island.
Totally. What island are you going to? Never mind. It doesn't even matter. Get on my boat. I'll take you anywhere. It's just, This is not credible. But yeah, if you walked by a boat and there was a big poster board with a map on it, and here's where we are, and here's this, and here's the route we take, and then a little write-up if here's why we take this route.
Yeah.
Hey, if you want to go to this island, we're actually not sailing for the next month because we think the weather's too rough. And most people go this way, but we go this way because it's a much more beautiful route. And there's dolphins, and this way there's actually pirates, and some people have been robbed, and etc. You get that kind of education, and then especially when that's not there for any of the other boats.
Yeah,
it's such an advantage.
It stands out. Yeah. And I'll say too, like you said, some people come in and they've been geeking out for 3 weeks or 3 years. I've gone and looked back and, tracked the people who show up and actually buy something or join the program or sign up for an actual package or whatever with me, that they've generally been on my list and receiving content from me for at least 3 to 6 months. And that is why I'm so willing to play the long game. That's why I'm going to keep creating content and delivering it, is because I know that in my experience in my business, they're not ready right out of the gates most of the time. They need to be receiving and invited to my message, to my point of view, long before they're ready to actually join me in something.
Amen. Yeah, it's one of the fundamental questions entrepreneurs have to come to is, am I in this for the short term or the long term? Is this a long game for me or a short game? Because if it's a short game, I mean, I guess due to the manipulative tactics that can work short term, it makes the world worse. But if you're in the long game, then to me, the long game is this sharing of point of view. That's one of the most important parts of it. And then people say, but if I share it, oh my God, then why would people buy from me if I'm just giving it all away? And I mean, there's not really anything I'm holding back that's not for free on my YouTube. But one, easy is the new free. People would rather just sign up for a course, like instead of scrolling my YouTubes and patching a course together for themselves, they'd rather just sign up for something that is going to hold their hand and walk them through it. And when I do my one-on-one sessions, almost all of which end up being about niching, it makes no sense because of the content I put out, most of it is about niching. That's like percentage wise the most. So that should be the one thing nobody comes to me about, because they can get the help for free. It's all there on YouTube. I've got articles on it, but that's the thing they do. So it's the opposite that most people think it is. No, you give away that content, you share that context with people, and then that's what they want help with you on.
Yeah. They want feedback. They want to brainstorm. They want your expertise. Yeah, it's awesome. We're right up on like the half-hour mark, and I feel like we could talk a lot longer. So we'll probably do another episode in the future. But you're helping people with point of view marketing, and I know that you've had a membership going for the last few years. Tell us a little bit about your membership and some ways people can tag along to the TAD train.
Sure. Well, if people want to check out the membership, marketingforhippies.com/membership, it's all there. But if people go to marketingforhippies.com, the main website, there's a starter kit, an ethical marketing starter kit, which has the like 2.5 hours of footage from a day-long workshop I toured around for 2 decades. And so that's just all available for free right now. So that's the main thing if people want to check it out. And there's a lot of free stuff on the site people can find.
Yeah, I'll also say definitely go to Instagram right now and follow Marketing for Hippies. Tad, I don't know if it's Mondays or Fridays, but you always post a reel of memes, and they're my favorite memes of the week every week.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, meme Mondays. Yeah,
meme Mondays, yeah. It's definitely worth following him on Instagram just to get those, because in addition to all the beautiful content that you share, that's one of my favorite parts of your message.
Me too.
Awesome. You shared so much wisdom, as you always do. Are there any last words of wisdom you want to leave people with?
No, I'm just happy to have been here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone out there, for listening or watching. Definitely check out Tad and all of his magic, and whatever happens, keep asking big questions and taking bold action, because you are here for a reason. Bye.